let's go to a more philosophical place.
Okay.
Because I asked you earlier about why you thought why music was important to you.
Yeah.
I want you to give us your wisdom here.
Okay.
And tell you've been around and you've witnessed culture changing.
Yes.
Why do you think music is important to culture? And to
Well, first of all, I
society?
think I do have a great deal of wisdom, but it's not my wisdom. It's wisdom that I've been lucky enough to encounter.
Okay.
Because I've lived a long life, and I've also been able to work with or be in the presence of a lot of talented, great, or accomplished people. I think that's important because you actually pick up their wisdom, so to speak, and you wear it like a cloth or you throw it away.
Well, and thus I ask you this question.
That's right. Well, music, music is, I don't know if it's important to culture, but I know that it's important to everybody in that culture. Why did I answer that way? Because the pop culture of today is very different from the pop culture that I grew up with. The songs of my childhood I can still remember from relocation camp when I was 4, 5, and 7 to today. I still remember all the songs of Jerome Kern, of Duke Ellington, all those things. And to me, this is culture. It was considered pop music not then. Today, it's considered like the foundations of our class of our musical American culture, right? I don't know whether in 100 years they'll look back on today's music, whether it's hip-hop or whatever, and consider it with the same grandeur that we look back on the Gershwins and Cole Porters and so forth, I don't know whether we will or not, because the music of today is really much more political act than I think it ever was before. It shows this maelstrom of the way our society is changing, this huge emphasis on visibility, on the entertainment industry in the United States is one of the most powerful industries we have now. It's not, we don't build cars or television sets and cameras the way we used to, right? But we still lead the world in entertainment. Whether you're a basketball star or a singer, you're going to be huge if you're performing in America. And that, I can't separate the music that we hear, pop music I mean, and the artists who perform it. I can't separate them from the community of people who are also big stars in football or baseball, or the personalities on television, whether their name be Paris Hilton or Lindsay Lohan or Charlie Sheen. These are names of people that are familiar to everybody. Most people in the United States know them before they know much about Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. So
is this connection to...
Well, it makes it harder for me to assess values in terms of what's going on today. But it doesn't keep me from being as fascinated with it.
Because you're not a purist.
Definitely
not. You're not
No.
a musical elitist. You're not a purist. I mean,
in fact, I enjoy junk art. And I don't mean junk art like going down to Watts and seeing beautifully things built from junk, No, I mean the most commercial, crass things that we do, which make millionaires out of some bimbos. Whatever it is, there's a sort of fun about seeing how these elements coalesce and get people to follow them and purchase and buy into it. I watch television all the time. I have 10 television sets in my apartment, and they're always on. I don't know if you visited my apartment, but it's a jungle of information. It's the same as this room that we're in. There are lights, and they're all on. And there's lights out there. There are all these lights on. To me, a light is like a TV set, and a TV set is of no value unless it's on.
So, I mean, do you think there is such thing as serious music then?
Well, see, isn't that interesting? You use the word serious, and by the way, your voice...
I'm loading the question.
Yes, but it's interesting because it's almost a natural response. When you say serious, you said it as if it were something serious, like armpit, You can't, no one can say serious and smile.
Armpits are very serious.
That's
indeed.
right. So you get the idea. Is there serious music? Well, the reason why I'm being irreverent is I went to a school in which serious music was taught and rewarded with PhDs. I went to Cornell, which is a wonderful school. But remember, we were sister to other institutions like Columbia or Yale or Harvard and God knows Princeton, and their serious music was serious, meaning heavy. Now that's the side to serious art that I don't like, or that I like to make fun of. That's why when you say serious, I hear the other connotation of the word serious. If by serious you mean not commercial or eternal, like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. But there's a lot of funny stuff in the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, and I find it difficult to say that's serious, There's a lot of stuff by Poulenc and Debussy and Satie and Michael Dougherty and Bill Bauckham that's funny.
We just don't get the joke anymore.
Yeah, but even if we do, we don't. But we still call it serious in that it's classical.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think the word classical and serious are sort of married
Mm-hmm.
in the use of those terms, right?
Well, and by the way, I mean, I think most composers in my generation would agree with you that this notion of
Yeah.
serious music is
Yeah.
is arcane.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think deep down, I'm asking now, do you think deep down, though, you still long to write a serious piece? Would you consider yourself a success if at the end of your long life, when you're my age in 150 years, would you consider yourself, would you be satisfied if you never wrote a serious piece?
Well, I think the word is loaded too, and
Yeah.
I think the word that comes to mind for me
Yeah.
is meaningful, and
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that is challenging for a young composer is that you have so many options to you.
Yep.
You know, as a young person, it's sometimes hard to decide what is meaningful to you because you're used to everyone else telling you
That's
what
right.
that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think as young composers, just being able to decide what is meaningful to you personally can be one of the biggest hurdles.
You know, that's interesting because when I was young, people were telling me, first of all, the Roman Catholic Church, which is where my parents put all us kids, you know, when we got out of relocation camp. And then when I went to Cornell or when I first started to teach, we were always either being told what is serious or passing that on to our victim students, you know. But this generation doesn't take that crap the way we did. You know, and some people consider that a loss. And to some degree, I think it's a loss, you know. This, but on the other hand, there was so much deifying uncritically of certain traditional values that were passed on to us, some by prejudice and some by real wisdom, you know.
Well,
So-
it can be an excuse to just be lazy
That's right.
Yeah.
Or prejudice.
or prejudice.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have a favorite composer?
I have several favorite composers. Everybody knows that I love Debussy because I quote him liberally. I love Mahler. Among the serious composers, of course, Beethoven and Brahms. I'm very fond of Brahms. Mozart, of course. Bach. Those names are not unusual. You would expect the professor to say those very names, right? I like Takemitsu a lot, but I knew him. I was a very close friend of his, and he stayed with me when he first came to America.
How
I
in
like a lot of
in
music.
pop culture? Who's your favorite pop artist?
Well, it's interesting. Pop culture, I usually reserve that term for people who are practicing today, right now.
Uh-huh.
But popular music,
Okay.
if I love Jerome Kern and Cole Porter, that generation that was so literate in their pop music, and it was music of popular origin that was intended for adults. Popular music today is intended for kids, you know, as you know. You know, the kinds of lyrics that Cole Porter wrote could not possibly survive today, except as a nostalgia offering.
Right.
Among people practicing today, in a way, I kind of like everybody, like bang on the can people, you know, post-minimalists and so forth. The problem with my saying that I love them is that it's changing fast, and it's difficult for me to hear today's music without hearing things that I either want to copy or think have been copied from. There's a lot of the competitive that comes out in me when I listen to today's music, whether it's classical, serious, or pop, because I'm still in those worlds.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Being a professor.
Yeah.
The good,
The
the
bad.
bad.
The good is that it's given me stability, economic and geographic, for the first time in my life. I've made a lot more money at other periods in my life, when I was working on Broadway or when I was working a regular job at Warner Brothers or at Fox Studios for many, many years. But those big years, big in terms of salary years, were invariably followed by years of, it's like in the Bible, you know, 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So I've done both feast and famine. You know, it's a curious thing, though, Drew. Looking back on my life, whether I was deeply in debt or making a ton of money, I lived the same. I always seem to live the same. I don't think that's a good thing, by the way. But it certainly indicates that I'm a creature more of habit and indulgence than of discipline. So those are, what are the good years? Those are the good things. So having stability. The other thing is that I do find it a blessing that I'm with younger people a lot. Not because it gives me a sense of superiority, but the reverse. Here's an interesting fact. You know, in Japanese, the word sensei means teacher. Sensei, right? My father was a sensei. I'm a sensei. But the word sensei means, literally, if you look at the kanji, the Japanese characters, it means born previously. That suggests that in that culture, a teacher or somebody who was born previously is somebody to be revered, honored, and respected. Nobody feels that way today. Just to be older is not an advantage for anything, whatever. Quite the contrary. We want to learn from younger people. We want to look like younger people. We want to date younger people. It's a very powerful pull, and I see it all around me. In that respect, being a professor is one of the advantages to it is that I'm sort of observant of teenage culture, if you will, towards which everything in our culture is aimed. Mm-hmm. I see it firsthand, how it's affecting them and how they're enjoying it and how it's perhaps destroying them. I don't know. Those are good things. Mm. The bad thing is that I think, and I've only been a professor for 3 years with tenure and all the rest of that, the bad thing is that I think that it's easy to begin to take yourself seriously. I think it's too seriously. Mm. Isn't it funny, in this conversation we're having, the word serious is definitely not a good thing.